Hello and welcome back, and today we are going to set up the NAT gateway for our private subnet. But why we need a NAT gateway? So here is the setup where we are having a VPC with public subnet and private subnet. So any resource present inside the private subnet will not be able to download any new package, or neither it will be able to download any new updates. So to solve this issue, AWS provides a NAT gateway. With the help of NAT gateway, EC2 instance can communicate with the internet and it can download certain packages and updates which is needed for EC2 instance. But other way around, where a user trying to access a NAT gateway to access a EC2 instance present into private subnet is not possible. So NAT gateway is always a one-way route where an EC2 instance or any resource present into the private subnet can go out and access the other resources. Let's start with the demo and let's go step by step, and let's start with the first thing, which is the VPC. Here is my AWS console. In the search, type VPC. Click on VPC over here, and here you can click on create VPC and select the VPC only. Type the name of the VPC. So here I'm just gonna put test VPC. CIDR range, I'm just gonna put 12.0.0.0/16. Tenancy, I'm just gonna stick with default. Tags, I'm just gonna keep the default one and click on create VPC. And here you can see our VPC has been created, which is our test VPC. Let's move ahead, and the next resource which we need to create is the subnet. Now we are going to create a public subnet and the private subnet. So let's go back to our AWS console, and in the left navigation menu you will find the option for a subnet. Click on it, and these are the default subnet, but we are not going to use those. Click on create subnet, select the VPC, which is the test VPC which we have created, and here we are going to enter the name of our subnet. So I'm just going to put test subnet. I'm just going to put public. First of all, I'm just going to create a public subnet and 1A. So 1A is the availability region. So here you can see I'm just creating it into Europe Central 1A. That's why I have suffixed it with the 1A. IP range, I'm just going to put 12.0.0 and I'm just going to put 10/24. So that we will have 256 IPs. So I'm just going to copy this IP address. I'm just going to need it for a private subnet also. So click on add one more, and here I'm just going to put test subnet private, and here I'm just going to put 1A. Availability zone, I'm just going to select 1A over here, and here I'm just going to paste it, but here I'm just going to change it to 2 so that we have the differentiation between the public subnet and the private subnet. And after that, I'm just going to verify the details. So here you can see test subnet public, test subnet private, and then click on create subnet. And here we have both the subnets ready. Let's move ahead, and the next resource which we need to create is the internet gateway. And this internet gateway, we are going to attach it with the public subnet so that any resource present inside the public subnet can access the internet, as well as any resource outside of this whole AWS and VPC will be able to access the resource present inside our public subnet. So let's go back to our AWS console and create internet gateway. So here in the left navigation menu, you will find the option for an internet gateway. So click on it, and here this is the default. We are not going to use that one. Click on create new internet gateway. So I'm just going to create test internet gateway. So this is the abbreviation I'm just using, IGW for internet gateway. Click on create internet gateway and just go there, and here you can see test internet gateway has been created. Now we need to attach it to our VPC first of all. So I'm just going to go into action, click on attach VPC and select the VPC which is test VPC, and click on attach internet gateway. Alright, so if you take a look onto the diagram once again over here, so we have created the VPC, we have created the internet gateway within the VPC, but we have not still attached with our subnet. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to create a route table so that we can attach this internet gateway to our subnet. And we are going to create a 2 route table. So here you can see in the diagram, in the public subnet, we are just going to create a 1 route table for public subnet, as well as we are going to create a 1 more route table for our private subnet. So let's go back to our AWS console, and in the left navigation menu, you will find the option for a route table. So click on here, these are the default, we are not going to use one. So I'm just going to click on create route table. So I'm just going to choose the first route table. So I'm just going to use test route table, that is RT for route table. And here I'm just going to put public. Then I need to select the VPC. We have only one VPC, that is test VPC. So I'm just going to select that one and click on create route table. Okay, so now my route table has been created, but this route table is still not public. We need to attach internet gateway. to that. So click on edit routes over here and click on add routes, and here you need to enter the IP address range. So this is the 000, which means it will have access to the internet from anywhere. So this is the meaning of this IP address, and here we need to choose the internet gateway so that it can access the internet. So this is the internet gateway I'm attaching, and click on save. So now our route table has been updated with the internet gateway, but still we need to attach the subnet also. So for that, go to the subnet association, click on edit subnet, and here we need to choose the public subnet and click on save association. So now our public route table is ready. So here you can see this route table, and in the route table we have internet gateway for getting the internet access, and now we have also attached the public subnet to it. Let's go back to our diagram once again. So here this part is done, and now we are into the private subnet. So we are going to create one more table, but in this route table we are not attach internet gateway because this is a private subnet and private route table. So go back to your console. In the route tables, click on create route table, and here I'm just going to type test RT for route table, and I'm just going to put private. And the VPC, we are working inside a single test VPC, so I'm just going to select that one, click on create route table. And here, after creating the route table, which is a private route table, we need to click on subnet association. Go to actions over here, click on edit subnet association, and here we are going to select the private subnet and click on save association. And remember, in here we have the private subnet associated with this private route table, but in the routes we are not changing anything. We are not attaching any internet gateway. So now both the route tables are ready. So our public as well as private. Moving ahead in the setup, the next resource which we need to create is the NAT Gateway. And this NAT Gateway will be associated with our public subnet with the Internet Gateway, because Internet Gateway is only available inside our public subnet. And NAT Gateway will provide a route to the private subnet to get an internet access. So that's the reason we attach this NAT Gateway along with our public subnet. So let's go back to our AWS console. In the left navigation menu, you will find an option for a NAT Gateway. So click on NAT Gateway. And here you can see there is no NAT gateway I have created. So click on create NAT gateway. And here put the name. So I'm just going to put test NAT gateway. And here we need to select the subnet. Now here you need to think like which subnet has an internet access. So here if you take a look onto the diagram, so it's only the public subnet with internet gateway. We already created the internet gateway with our public subnet. So this public subnet we need to attach. So here in the drop down, just go the subnet and select the public subnet, which is this one, test subnet public. So click on it. And here the connectivity type. So there are two types of connectivity, which is the public and one is the private. So what's the difference between the public and the private? So let's say if you have chosen the public connectivity for your NAT gateway, so what will happen? So here is an example I'm taking. So this is an AWS account in which you have a multiple VPCs. So let's assume this EC2 instance present into this private subnet have a public connectivity, which means this private subnet can make a request for internet, which is I'm just putting an icon for internet over here in the blue color. So this EC2 instance with the public connectivity type can access the internet for downloading the certain packages and software update. But in case if you choose the connectivity type to be private, then what will happen? So here in the diagram, so this particular EC2 instance present inside this private subnet will not be able to access this internet. It will only be able to access the other VPCs present inside this particular AWS account. So it can go out of the VPC, but it will not go and access the internet. It will just reside within this particular AWS account. And if you have a multiple VPCs, then it can be able to communicate with those VPCs. So that's the basic difference between the connectivity type when you create a NAT gateway. Anyway, now you know the difference, but here in this demo, we are going to select the public because we want to curl the Google page when we are testing this particular whole setup from our private subnet EC2 instance. Or we are just gonna download certain packages to perform a demo and validate our theory. All right, so the next thing which we need to do is we need to create an elastic IP for our NAT gateway. And this elastic IP, you can either create it from here also, or you can have a pre-existing elastic IP. So here I have not created any elastic IP, so I'm just going to click on allocate elastic IP. And here you can see this, it has created an elastic IP for me. So I'm just going to choose that particular elastic IP. So here in the drop down, you can see it has already selected that elastic IP. So I have selected this elastic IP, and in the tag section, I'm just not going to change anything, and I'll just click on create NAT Gateway. And here you can see the state is pending. So it might take a couple of minutes for this NAT Gateway to get ready. After a couple of minutes, my NAT Gateway is ready and the state is available. Okay, so let's get back to our diagram once again. So now we have created the NAT Gateway, but after creating the NAT Gateway, you also need to update the route table of our private subnet. We only created the route table and associated with our private subnet. So I can show you that. So go back to your AWS console, go to the route table and click on this private route table. So here, and this is the default route for our private subnet, and in the association you can check this is our private subnet. But now, since we have created our route NAT Gateway, so here you can see this is the NAT Gateway we have created, but this subnet is not aware about it. So we need to update this route table, and we need to attach this NAT Gateway to this route table so that this private subnet knows that I have the NAT Gateway with me. So go to your AWS console over here, click on this private route table which we have already selected, click on edit route, and here click on add routes. So that destination is internet. So this is the IP address for internet, and how I will reach to that internet via the internet NAT Gateway. So here select the NAT Gateway, and here you will find the NAT Gateway which we have just created. So click on NAT Gateway and click on save changes. Okay, so here you can see the difference. So this is our private route table, and here we have the NAT Gateway inside our route. And if I can show you my public route table also, so if I go to public, and here you will find the internet gateway, that is IGW, which is our internet gateway. So that's the basic difference between our route table which is present inside our public and the private subnet. Now moving ahead, the next resources which we are going to create is the EC2 instances. So now we are going to create a EC2 instances into public subnet as well as into our private subnet. So go back to your home page of your AWS console over here. I'll close other tabs over here. Click either you can search over here the EC2, click on this EC2 and click on launch instances. Here put the name. So I'm just going to put test EC2. And I'm just going to put it public because I'm just going to create into my public subnet. Here I'm just going to choose Ubuntu, and I'm just going to stick with t2.micro as my instance type. Key pair, I'm just going to create a key pair, and I'm just going to use the same key for my private EC2 the EC2 instance present into my private subnet, which we are going to create soon. So I'm just going to use the same key for that one also. So I will choose the name of the key, that is NAT Gateway demo key, and then click on create key pair, and here you can see it has downloaded me the private key and the public keys associated with our EC2 instance which we are just creating. Network settings, just go there, edit, and here first of all we need to choose the VPC. So we have created a test VPC, so select that one. Subnet, we are just gonna select public subnet because we want to create this EC2 instance into our public subnet. So select that one. Public IP assigned, so enable that one so that we get a public IP for our EC2 instance. Then security group, so by default it has a SSH22 security group already enabled. I need to enable one more security group, and that will be HTTP request and port 80, and I'm just going to select it anywhere so that I can make a HTTP request for this EC2 instance. All right. Capacity, memory capacity, I'm just going to stick with 8 gigs of memory. And in the advanced detail, I'm just going to install one small package, although it's not necessary, but just for demo purpose, I'm just going to install the Apache 2 as a part of a user data script. So what will happen when I'll boot this EC2 instance, or I'll start this EC2 instance, then it will update the package, it will install the Apache, and it will update the index.html page where I'm just gonna printing the host name, and then after it's just gonna restart the Apache. So that's simple. Click on launch instance, and it will take a few minutes to start the public EC2 instance present into the public subnet. Meanwhile, we can again go to EC2 dashboard, and it will take some time to reflect it over here. Meanwhile, we can set up another EC2 instance present into our private subnet. So again, click on launch instances, and here choose test EC2, and here I'm just gonna suffix it with the private. And I'm just gonna again choose Ubuntu as my base operating system, and T2.micro again I'm just gonna choose, and here from the drop down I'm just gonna select the key, that is NAT Gateway demo key. I'm just gonna stick with the same key which we have just created in the previous step. Then click on edit network settings, select the test VPC, and the subnet I'm just gonna select, it is already selected the private subnet, so that's okay. Public IP, we don't need to assign public IP because this is our EC2 instance present into our private subnet, so it should not have a public IP. And the security group rules, I'm just going to enable the SSH, as well as I'm just going to add one more security group, and that is going to be from anywhere, and the type should be HTTP and port 80. Okay. And in the advanced, I'm just going to install the Apache here as well, and then click on launch instances. And I'll be back once both of my instances are up and running. Here you can see my both instances are running. So let's verify those instances. So I will just start with the public instance, because where we have installed our Apache, and it should be accessible via public IP. So click on this instance ID, copy this address, go to the new tab and enter over here. And here you can see my home page of Apache is up and running. So I will zoom in over here. So this is the private IP of my public EC2 instance. Let's take a look onto the request flow once again. So here we have already created both the EC2 instance, and now we have just accessed the home page of my public EC2 instance. So now what we are going to do, we are just going to first SSH or log in into my public EC2 instance using the private key which we have just created for this EC2 instance. And once we are logged in into that EC2 instance, then from there we are going to log in into our private EC2 instance present into my private subnet, because this EC2 instance we cannot access directly from anywhere or from my local laptop. I just first need to go into my public EC2 instance, and from there I need to access the private EC2 instance present into the private subnet. Let's go back to AWS console and check the instructions. So this is my AWS console. I'm just going to close this tab and go to our EC2 dashboard, click on instances running, go to our public instance, click on connect, and here you will find the instructions. So first thing we need to do is we need to change the permission of the key. So copy this command, go to your terminal. So here I have opened the two terminals. So first let's work on to our public EC2 instance SSH. So let's check the key. So here you can see this is the key, but I need to change the permission. Right now this has a read and write permission which you can see over here. So I need to change it. So I will use chmod 400 command to make it as a read only, and now I have changed it. So let's verify it once again, and here you can see now it's only read only. I'll clear it. The next command which we need to do is we need to SSH. So copy this command from here and go to your terminal and paste that command, and it will ask, are you sure want to connect? Type yes. And now we are into our public subnet EC2 instance. So clear it. Alright, so next thing which we need to do is we need to access our private EC2 instance running into private subnet. So for that we need the private SSH key which we need to copy to our public EC2 instance. So here on the right terminal you can see this is my local terminal. I'm not logged in into any EC2 instance. So let's run the ls command, and here you can see the key. So what I'll do, I'll just run a cat command over here to copy the content of this particular key. So from here I will just copy this key, and on the left navigation menu this is my EC2 instance into public subnet. So here I'm just gonna create a file, and then I'm just gonna open into the VI mode and then paste the content, and then after that I'm just gonna save and quit. Let's check the permission of this file. And it also has a read write permission, so I just need to change that one. I'll just clear the screen. So I'm just gonna make it chmod 400, and then I'm just gonna choose NAT Gateway. So now I made that permission, or the permission of that particular SSH key as a read only. So again verify it. So here you can see the permission has been changed. So now we will SSH into our private subnet. So to do that, I'll just close this terminal over here because it's confusing. So right now I am into my public EC2 instance and I have the key with me. So what I'll do, I'll just go to my EC2 dashboard and go to click on instances, click on private instance, click on connect, and here you will find the instruction to connect to your private instance. So copy this command, and here you can see this is the private IP address. So this is not a public IP address. So I can show you. I'll open this instance into new tab. So here you can see this is our EC2 private instance and there is no public IP address. That's why I was not able to access it outside of my public EC2 instance. So that's why I SSH'd into first my public EC2 instance, and now I will use the private IP to connect to my private EC2 instance. Alright, so copy this command from here, go to your terminal, and I'll clear it and paste it over here. And here you can see now we are SSH'd or we are logged into our private EC2 instance. So I'm just going to clear this screen over here. Also, you can verify the IP address. Here you can see this is the abbreviation or the name, which you can see over here, 12/0/2/98, and this is the private IP address of my private EC2 instance. So if you go to the details over here, so here you can see the details. So this is just an identification check to verify your private EC2 instance. Alright, so next thing what I'll do, I'll just try to curl the Google page. So let's do curl www.google.com. And here you can see the output, although it's just a random code which is being presented over here, but I'll just clear the screen. The next thing which I can do is www. and ping the google.com. And here you can see the request is going through, which means now our private EC2 instance is able to access the internet and with the NAT gateway. We'll do a few more testing. So what I'll do, I'll just try to remove the route entry from our private route table so that we can verify once we remove that particular route, then we should not be able to ping the google.com or ping any URL. So let's go to our homepage of AWS console and type VPC over here, go to VPC. And here into the route tables, select the private route table and edit this route and remove this NAT gateway, because now we just don't want the NAT gateway. We are just doing the demo and we are just testing the other scenario as well. So I will just remove it and click on save changes. So now my route table has been updated. So let's go back to our EC2 instance, which is a private EC2 instance, and again run the same command. I'll just ping the google.com, and here you can see now my request is not going through at all, which means now we have removed the route for our NAT gateway. Although NAT gateway is there, but there is no route which allowing our EC2 instance to go through that particular request. So this is how our NAT gateway works, and with the help of NAT gateway you should be able to provide internet access to your EC2 instance or any resource running or present inside your private subnet. One additional thing before we conclude, I also have a YouTube membership program for my YouTube members. So if you are a member of that particular group, then you will also get an access to some premium content where I'm using Terraform to provision all those things, and also some behind the scenes and some more raw sessions where I try to experiment with some projects. So I will be uploading those sessions, but that will only be for my YouTube member. So if you like the similar content which I have already uploaded onto my channel, and if you want to learn more onto the DevOps and cloud, then consider being a member to that particular YouTube membership program. So see you into the next session of our DevOps. Till then, take care and bye bye.